Well, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Very good. Thank you so much. I am so honored to be here today. My name is Susan Baptist. I am the Director of Recreation, and it is truly my privilege to be here with a great group of people that are with us to celebrate 25 years of this facility. It is such an accomplishment. I can't even imagine what it must be like to sit 25 years later and enjoy what it is that so many of you in this audience worked hard for. And I just want to say that on behalf of myself and the wonderful folks that work here currently, we try really hard to be good stewards, to keep this facility exactly as you guys would have wanted it. We keep it full of kids. If you're here long enough, there's going to be a lot of them here, and you can attest to the fact that we stay busy and we stay active, and we're trying to do right by all of you folks that made it such a wonderful complex. So before we get started, I'm going to do some introductions ahead of time so that we'll just let you guys come up and talk one after the other. And so our first speaker is the gentleman that was a city manager at the time, which was 1996. He is the one that got this thing approved in the budget, along with his fellow council members and mayor and council at the time, Mr. Jerry Bittner, who is also currently our mayor pro tem. So give me a round. He's not going to come up yet, but he has 30 years of being the ultimate servant to this city and to our citizens. So thank you for that, Mr. Bittner. It is truly, it's been a joy to look through and do the research on this. After Mr. Bittner, we're going to have what was at the time in 96 the director of Recreation and Parks, who then turned into the city manager and still continues to do many, many, many great things. Another fabulous public servant, and that is Mr. Ken Hagan. Thank you so much. Many, many, many years of wisdom between some folks in this audience. And then after Mr. Hagan, we're going to have Michael Liquori, who just celebrated his 34th year current employee with the city of Jacksonville. So we are honored, yes. He is one of the original that opened this up, and he is still with us. So we're blessed to still have Michael, and then obviously everybody that has preceded us. So it's going to be a great day. It's going to be a nice ceremony for us. And when we get done, after Michael, I do want to let you know, don't run off to the cars. Come inside. I have some nice refreshments and a beautiful cake. I also have a gift for everybody because I certainly want to commemorate this event and this day. And I have some fabulous memorabilia as well as staff that are going to be available to take you on a tour. We've made some improvements. We've made some great things happen in the 25 years we've been here for efficiency. And I would love to show it off and let you be proud of what so many of you worked hard to do for us. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker, which is our Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Jerry Bittner. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Susan. Some people see things as they are and say, why? Others dream of things that never were and say, why not? That's a quote from George Bernard Shaw, and you're going to hear about dreams frequently in my talk. As Susan mentioned, on December 15th, 1996, I stood here and presided over the opening ceremony for this complex. It was an eventful day that fulfilled the dreams of many people, those who campaigned for its development, especially members of the Parks Recreation Advisory Committee. But the project, as first conceived, was derailed. I'm going to give you a little explanation of the background. In November 1991, 30 years ago, City Council adopted a $6.5 million resolution calling for a bond referendum to construct and develop sports facilities. $6.5 million. In February 1992, the bond referendum was soundly defeated. It was not because the voters didn't want recreational opportunities. They did, but they didn't want to pay for them through a property tax increase. Nevertheless, it was a sad day. But the dream did not die. things were changing. A few months later, the city attorney, Marshall Dotson, and the city manager met with Representatives Weyerhaeuser to discuss their interest in selling about 200 acres of land near Western Boulevard, which is now the Commons property. At that time, some members of the council were concerned about criticism that this was not the right time to buy property for recreation in light of the failed bond referendum. On a 4-2 vote, purchase was authorized, $437,000 for 200 acres, or roughly $2,000 an acre. Was it a good price? Consider that last year we sold an acre of Commons property, 1 acre, for $350,000. As the city continued to grow, the city's finances improved to the point where the project was reborn, and a bid in the amount of $3,049,000 was awarded on September 14, 1995 for the construction of the Jacksonville Commons Recreation Center. 25 years ago, that was a gigantic step forward, and it continues today. Let me close by saying that if Mayor Phillips would have loved to be here, if only to tell you that the city continues to advance recreation as a priority, as evident by the recent purchase of approximately 490 acres of land in the Williamsburg area. How it will be developed and used is yet to be determined, but we can dream, can't we?
Wow, what a wonderful day this is. It's a beautiful day outside. And 25 years ago, we had a beautiful day as well when we dedicated this building. As Mr. Bittner has just alluded to, there were a lot of people that made this happen. And it was the courage of the mayor at that time, Joe Schode, and the council at that time, that even though, as he alluded to, there was a lot of criticism because of the timing of so close to the bond referendum being defeated. But through the leadership of Greg Johnston, who believed in this project, they barreled forward. The end result was that at least 2 council members lost their council seats over this particular project, but they had the courage to push it forward anyway, and I've always been very appreciative of that. When I came here in 1969, I'll let that sink in for you for just a minute, 1969. As the Assistant Recreation Director, I was privileged to work with all the youth in Jacksonville in the adult athletics program. And quite frankly, even though I had the title of Assistant Recreation Director, I was actually the athletic director because I was in charge of all the athletics. And so we used to go to other communities with all-star games and, adult tournaments for softball, and all I heard when we would go was, how come we don't have something like this, no matter where we went, in Jacksonville? And I absorbed that, and over the years, it became my beacon. And my goal was to one day have somebody say to us, I wish we had something back in my community like you have here. I want to thank Mr. Bittner for his leadership during the time we were constructing this. And I always thought one of the smartest things he ever did was to allow the recreation staff to design this building, these buildings, and this complex. We did have an architect, and we sat down with the architect. And as I said, Mr. Bittner allowed us to walk through with charrettes with the architect and lay out these buildings according to what the staff felt would accommodate the public. And I think we did a great job of doing that. When you look at these buildings 25 years later, they look like they could be built today and still serve the purpose. Now, as he alluded to, we had a $3 million contract, which was way over budget for what we had designed. So we had to shrink a couple of these buildings. But through the staff, we convinced the mayor and we convinced the city manager not to mess with this building. If you're going to cut over there. Because we felt very strongly that for this community, we needed a building that would have 2 gym floors in it. We needed a recreation space out front, and we needed some office space. And they agreed to that. So where did we cut? Well, we took the senior citizens building from 5,000 square feet to 3,500 square feet. And we took the administration building, I'm not sure of the exact figures, but we shrunk that down, and we were able to get into the budget. So we were able to make this happen. And as Mr. Bittner has pointed out, 25 years ago, we got a lot of criticism. One of the criticisms we got was from our youth baseball programs, and I never did quite understand this, because we had one place that we were playing all of our youth baseball with to start with. That was Lions Field. That was where we played, okay? So now we were moving over here, and in those days, it was a little bit off from the main. Look, Western Boulevard didn't look like it does today. So we got complaints of, you're moving all of our sports over to that site, and we're going to have to drive all the way over there. And I would look at them and I'd say, okay, does your child play Little League now? Yes. I say, where do you live? Well, I live over in Bryn Mawr. I said, well, how do you get him to the ball games? Well, I drive him over there. I said, bingo. You're going to drive him now over to the Commons. So, you know, the criticism that you get sometimes as a public servant is deserved, and sometimes it's not deserved. Even though the bond referendum was soundly defeated, we didn't give up the dream. And what we kept saying to the citizens and to the council and everybody that would listen to us is that the need is still there. This was not pie in the sky. This wasn't something we dreamed up. This was what we needed. And you know why? Because we were turning people away from our programs. We had a waiting list for every youth athletic program that we had. We had a waiting list because of ball fields and because of indoor facilities. So the need was always there, and that's what we pushed, and we were successful. Getting back to what I said at the opening remarks, that I wanted one day for somebody to come up to me and say, I wish I had that in my community. Well, guess what? It happened. It happened with the first major event that we had at this site. And that was a 5K road race with the help of the Jacksonville Onslow Sports Commission. We held it out here. We had a great turnout. We had lots of people from around the state. We were very proud of what we had out here. And as I was getting ready to leave, I had a lady tap me on the shoulder. And she said, are you Mr. Hagan? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, are you in charge of this? I said, well, I'm the Recreation and Parks Director. She said, well, how did you do this? She said, this is fantastic. And I explained to her the background. At that time, we had one school on the site, which was the elementary school. And she said, I'm going back to my community and find out why we don't have something like this. Well, I kind of puffed up. I was very proud of that because I had finally reached what I felt like was a goal. And then I said, well, ma'am, where are you from? She said, Chapel Hill. That's when I knew we had arrived, because Chapel Hill at the time was a large, community, and still is, obviously. So now that the present city council has taken another giant step, purchasing a large piece of property, as Mr. Bittner just alluded to, it's time to start thinking about how to develop that in a way that is going to make the citizens proud of what we have and accommodate the citizens' needs. Because it's my understanding that we're starting to turn away people again from our programs because of lack of space, that we have waiting lists. So as I stand here before you, I think back 25 years ago and say, even though we've made progress, we still have a ways to go. So I'll be looking with much interest in how that property is going to be developed. It's going to take a while, but again, I'm so proud of what the council has done, the mayor and the council, of making that purchase. And I think this will take Jacksonville into the next century, because that 400 acres, even though some of it is wetlands, can be used for recreation and be developed over a number of years. This is not going to be a quick fix. This isn't going to be something, I think if you started working on it today, it would be a year or two before you actually put a spade in the ground. So there's a lot of work to do. But the council has made that initial investment, which says recreation and parks is important to this community, and I applaud them for it. Again, I'm so proud to be here. I'm so happy to see a lot of faces I hadn't seen in a while. The staff that we had at the time, the maintenance staff as well as the professional staff, a lot of them are here today, and we certainly appreciate you being here, and it's such a great time. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention one person who dug his heels in and pushed back at the council and the mayor, and in some cases the city manager. And that's Frank Liquori, who at the time was the chairman of the Parks and Recreation Commission. He believed in this project, and he wanted to see it happen. And as the chairman of that commission, he would come to council meetings and be very vocal of wanting them to move forward in building a new facility. Now, if that name sounds familiar to you, it's Michael's father. And I've always been very appreciative of what he did and the way he accomplished it. Again, thank you so much to Mike and Susan and the city manager for allowing me to be here and speak today. It's like 25 years have melted away. Now, when we dedicated the gym part of this, Jerry, as you remember, I made a three-pointer.
Took a little while, but you made a three-pointer.
I was waiting for that. I am not going to make a three-pointer today.
No basketballs, it's fine.
No. Thank you very much, and it's so good to see everybody.
Well, good afternoon. For those of you that don't know, my name is Michael Liquori, and the best part about seeing me here right now is we're not far from being over. So the first thing I need to say is, obviously, and has been said, Mr. Bittner, obviously, thank you for helping get where we're at today in your previous life and in your current life. And Mr. Hagan, we can't thank you enough. Everything we do has your footprint on it here, and it's because of people like you. Jacksonville today is a better place to live, and without people like you, we're not going to be successful in our society and our ability to raise kids and have families and those sorts of things. So thank you very much. We do appreciate it. I'd like to acknowledge some that are here today and some that are not. And Mr. Hagan made reference to some staff that we have. And if you'll just stand up for us real quick. Dale Fairchild. Dale worked over 30 years with us. He was our park maintenance supervisor. Allison Scott. Allison was with our athletics department, and she ran our youth leagues here at the Commons, as well as at Jack Amiette. Angela Thomas, who was our admin, who basically made sure we all were in line on what we were doing, because everything went through her, and that was important. And then Mike Carter, who made sure that our I's were dotted and our T's were crossed, and you know, that was always important. And obviously Mr. Hagan, but there's two other people that I want, actually three others that I want to recognize. The first is Jane Champney. Jane is not with us today. She lives in Oklahoma, and Jane was a programmer for us, and was about as good a programmer as you'd ever see. Like most programmers, a little quirky at times, but boy, could she come up with ideas like that. And we miss Jane today, but she sends her best wishes. The other is David Lynch. David, if you could take a minute out of your busy, and we're all busy. We know that. We're all busy. If you have a moment in your lives to talk to whoever it is you need to, or say a prayer for David. He's struggling with some things in his life right now, and he really wanted to be here, but he wasn't able to come today. As nice a guy or as nice a person as you're ever going to meet in your life, we'll miss David today, but he's definitely with us in thoughts, and please keep him in your thoughts. And the other person that we don't have with us today is somebody who's obviously near and dear to me, and I'm sure to anybody that knew her. The people that just stood up, she was near and dear to them, and that's Rhonda Peden. And Rhonda's daughter, Kelly, is here today, and her son, Van, is here today. We try and honor Rhonda every day. We understand the importance of who she was in our community, and we'll never let that go. She's very important to us, and she's, I'm sure, very important to all of us. And so I wanted to do that, and that was important to me. Now that we're about wrapped up, we have some refreshments in the rec center. We have a neat little cake, so if you can get an opportunity, go see the cake before people start eating it. It's actually pretty remarkable. Thank you for coming today. Thank you all for being supportive of who we are and what it is we're doing. As Mr. Hagan said, Mr. Bittner said, we have 400 acres of property. We can dream, whether it's outdoor facilities, indoor facilities, tracks, whatever it is. Everything's on the table. We'll find the right things, and Jacksonville will be a better place for it. Thank you so much.